Hi everybody. So, I am hopping on here really quick to share some updates on my thriller horror dark academia TBR for October as we get closer to Halloween. I recently updated my tier list video for this TBR, and I will be posting a re-uploaded video in a couple of days with that list. But today, I just wanted to highlight a couple of books I have either finished reading or that I'm currently reading. I have a short stack today, so this video will be a lot shorter than normal. The first book that I wanted to talk about is Nestlings by Nat Cassidy. This is the same author who wrote Mary, which I read in June and did not like because there was animal abuse in it, and I had to stop reading it at page 140. I am not too sure that Nat Cassidy's writing is for me, because while the disability representation of the character in a wheelchair is good, and there's also mention, I think that postpartum depression is handled really well, I just don't think his writing style is for me. So unfortunately, like Mary, this will probably be a DNF, and I am currently on page 115 at the moment. The next book is Fair Rosaline by Natasha Solomons. This book was recommended to me by Cari Can Read, as was Happy Medium, which I'll be talking to you about in a minute. This is a prequel to Romeo and Juliet, because before Romeo meets Juliet, he had a crush on her cousin, Rosaline. And this is about the relationship dynamic between the two of them. And I have to say, this is my first book by this author, and I really liked what she wrote. But Romeo is kind of a disgusting person, because I never realized this when I read Romeo and Juliet, that he was so disgusting. But when you think about it, Juliet and Rosalind are both 13, and that's really disgusting that he would pray after a 13-year-old and say that he's in love with her. And I think what attracts Rosalind to Romeo probably is the fact that he's mysterious and so much older and more mature than she is. Another discussion question I wanted to answer is, what does Romeo want from the girls he seduces? How does Rosaline disappoint those expectations? I think mostly that he wants sex, and Rosaline disappoints him because she's 13 and not ready to have sex. That is my basic analysis. The next book I wanted to talk about is Happy Medium by Sarah Adler. As I was just saying, Cari Can Read recommended this in her recent video where she read Halloween rom-coms, and I really enjoy this book. It's my first book by Sarah Adler. It's basically about this girl named Gretchen who is a palm reader at a fair, and she meets this guy named Charlie who works on a farm, and basically it's about how their relationship builds up, and the house that Charlie lives in is haunted by a ghost named Everett, And for the discussion questions that I wanted to answer in this video, they are: what television show would you most want to binge watch with Everett? So when I think of 1920s, I think of The Great Gatsby because Everett is a ghost from the 1920s. But another thing I would probably binge watch with him is Little House on the Prairie because that takes place on a farm. What is the worst color combination you can imagine for one of Grandma Ellen's sweaters or Afghans? Ooh. Two colors that I don't think match very well are like black and salmon pink. Why do you think it matters so much to Charlie that Gretchen is honest? The reason why I think honesty matters is because he wants to have a relationship and he doesn't want to be cheated out of anything. And also, she's a really shitty palm reader and she doesn't do good at predicting people's futures. So I think that's an important reason why she wants to be honest. Charlie wants her to be honest. So star ratings. Happy Medium gets 4.75 stars. I love the writing. I love the relationship development. And I loved how friendly Everett the Ghost was. Fair Rosaline, again, 4.5 stars. It's a great prequel to Romeo and Juliet that kind of sets up the dynamic that Romeo and Juliet will have based on a relationship between Rosaline and Romeo. And then, sadly, as I just said, I think Nestlings Like Mary will be another DNF. As I was saying, I just don't think his writing style is for me. And also, his books are similar to Stephen King's in the way, like, the chapters are set up, because the chapters will start halfway down the page, and that really interrupts the flow of the narrative, and I don't really like that. So, I mean, based on the point that I've read up to so far in this book, I would say I would give it 2.5 to 3 stars. So, as Halloween season wraps up, I have discovered a new reading challenge on a new booktubers channel called Abookolive, and she does this thing called Nonfiction November, where you read nonfiction books for a month based on certain prompts, and I have found a lot of new books that I have never heard of before from her list that I can't read, especially one about the musical Sunday in the Park with George. So I am excited to get started reading from that list on Friday. And for that reading challenge, I am also wrapping up my Serious Issues in the Media reading series about books that focus on substance use disorder, because I'm going to be reading a memoir that Olive recommended called Scenes from My Life, which is about this guy who was on this show called The Wire that died earlier this year from a drug overdose. He unfortunately died before his book could get published, which is kind of sad. But I am going to probably compare and contrast that book to Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing, and then wrap up all of the other books I have been reading in my quest to learn more about substance use disorder. Other books I will be reviewing when I do my wrap up for Nonfiction November are A Beautiful Boy by David Schiff, The Shining by Stephen King, Fairy Tale by Stephen King, Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and of course, Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing by Matthew Perry. Have a good week, everybody.